Hello fellow hunters of the blue home, welcome to my channel. Can you, does the sound come on clear please? This is the first time I'm doing this, so if you guys can check out if the audio is coming clear, please let me know. Well, seems everything is alright, so again, hello fellow hunters of the blue home, welcome to my channel. And also welcome to the first ever live session, and it will be a frequently asked questions, hobby related or channel related, so please, if you have any questions, just well, let them in the chat please. And this you may not know this, but I'm actually planning something special with the live setup that I'm doing. And also this week I sadly cannot post any painting tutorials because I haven't had the time to paint almost anything, so this seemed like a good alternative. So Silver Arrow is asking if they have to speak in English. You can ask the questions in Spanish if you want. I will be able to understand them, of course, but I will be answering them in English, yes. So second questions. Rustle Beetle is asking, why did you change from a sculpting channel to a painting channel? Well, at the time I started this channel, I was very interested in sculpting, but that changed, and I'm just like that. And my interest shifted, and I stopped making sculpting videos actually for quite a while. And a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to make my friends asked me if I wanted to make painting videos because they wanted to know how I made things. So I started making painting videos, and well, the rest is history. We are here, and now I'm starting to go back into making painting sculpting tutorials too. So that's the answer there. So another questions. David asks, did you use contrast techniques before these paints came out? And the answer is yes. I've been painting with washes and inks over base coats for a very long time. In fact, some of my listenmen, especially the not the pterodons, but the other more bitey versions, those were painted using washes, orange washes over a white undercoat. So yes. Ed asked, well, Ed, maybe I will have something on Friday or during the weekend, but it's not 100% sure, so we will have to wait. More questions. Florian, yes, they are Seraphon. Yes, actually they are my favorite. I've painted almost 3,000 points worth of Seraphon to the standard that you see here. So that took about 5 years to make. So yes, that was a very long time, and you cannot spend that much time painting something if you don't love it, of course. Iron Father Resox asks, how much are those paints in the background worth? I prefer not to think about it. I actually like the cow elves quite a lot, actually. The only problem I have is the monsters are quite big, and I don't like painting big stuff, so that won't happen. That's a good question, actually. Why do I hate blue? I just don't like painting blue. That started as a joke in my third ever video, because I really disliked painting that blue tutorial, and it came out, it started, people liked it, and I just keep saying it. But it's true, I really don't like painting blue. I think this has to do with the fact that it's, for me, one of the least interesting colors to paint, because the only real way you can add reds and purples to shade it, and you can maybe add a very pale yellow to highlight it and still make it look blue, but for the most part, if you want to highlight or shade blue, it's usually all the paints that you have from various ranges are just adding white or black, and that makes for a not very interesting paint job, sorry. But I don't know, it just doesn't blend as nicely as red or yellow or other stuff. What is your favorite paint? If you are talking about actual paint, my favorite paint, not sure, but probably Mephisto Red, if I had to pick one, or Avalon Sunset. Those are absolutely magnificent paints. Well, I started making contrast videos because no one really made good tutorials for them, and I knew that they had potential to be really good because I've been painting using the same techniques for quite a while. So I was also quite tired of hearing people talking about that you couldn't use contrast paints for Space Marines or for flat armor panels, and you actually can. It's a bit more complicated for vehicles, but I would really recommend you use an airbrush for that. So next questions. Okay, Silver Arrow asks a very interesting question, and that is something that happens a lot. He's painting a resin model and the paint just rips off. That's because of the resin? Yes and no. That's because of the mold release that is used for resin models. So resin molds are usually coated with a mold release so that the resin pops out of the mold easily. That mold sorry, my mobile phone just went crazy. So that mold release causes paint not to stick to the model, so you have to wash the resin model before you paint it really well using warm soapy water and a toothbrush. Very gently and carefully clean the model before you start base coating it, and use a proper primer for that. Yes. Oh, Rick is here from 8 Pointed Star Painting. Hello, mate. How are you? What army do you play in Kings of War? I play Salamanders, which are lizardmen, and I play elves. I'm starting to paint my elf army now, and I also played Brotherhood for quite a while, which is the Bretonnia equivalent army, but it's on hold for the time being. And I also have a fully painted undead army, which I'm very proud of, actually. Charles, I already answered that question. If you can go back a bit, you will have it, but I just don't like painting it. How many models have you painted, Robert? I've not many. I have, as I said, a couple of fully painted armies, a couple of one fully painted Dead Sun Strike team, and the models you saw on the channel. So mainly that. What's your favorite color in white? It's blue. Well, it's not blue, it's actually yellow. Yellow is my favorite color to paint, and red. Both. Warmly Painting, welcome, thank you. When we'll see a heavy contrast Rubik Marine. It's coming. The plan for the heavy contrast series was just to paint Space Marines in the start, and it was just to do the 18 Legions, because I needed to put like a restriction for that, because if I didn't add because otherwise I will just be painting Space Marines till the day I die, and that's not something I like to make. So Rubik Marines are probably going to be the last of the 18 Marines. It's coming, but as I said, I go with what I want to do in the moment, so I have a couple of videos before I do another Marine, but it's coming definitely. I want to finish the series before the end of the year, so at some point. More. Okay. And I mentioned that I don't like painting the old style Marines. Well, I don't like them because they are not as well made as the new ones. When you paint a new Primaris Marine, you really can tell that the molding technology has advanced massively. So it's just so nice. All the detail is crisp, all the shapes are defined, all the surfaces are flat and perfectly smooth. It's just so much better. Fertona asks, how much do I spend painting an average a day? I try to paint at least for an hour a day if I can. As I said, these last few days I haven't been able to paint. In fact, the mini that I'm painting for the next video, which is Shield Knight, it's just base coated. I haven't been able to make almost anything, you know, live. Just sometimes get in the way, but it's coming. Will I make a heavy contrast for the Seraphon? Yes. In fact, with the Seraphon Warband coming for Warcry, for Underworlds, I will be painting at least one of each. If it's all, we don't know what will be there, but I will be painting some for sure. Yes. When did I first start the Warhammer hobby? I started with a bit earlier than the 5th edition fantasy box. So that one that came with Bretonnians and Lizardmen. You can tell by the armies that I play. I started a bit earlier with a friend of mine introduced me to the hobby. He just brought a White Dwarf to the school, and I fell in love with it. And I asked my parents for that box for Christmas, and I got it, and the rest is, well, history. Things. Yes, even if it's not Forge Wall, it probably has mold release. Yes, they probably don't know. Every resin model you should wash before painting. What is your favorite mechanics in the game? I mean, for example, wave nerf mechanic in Gears of War. Well, probably my favorite mechanics are all of the Dead Zone ones, because Dead Zone is just amazing. So the cube mechanic especially, it's probably my favorite mechanic of any game ever. Do you like historical war games? Not really. I'm not interested in historical war gaming at the moment. I don't know why. A lot of my friends are, but for some reason it just doesn't really interest me at all. I don't know why. Is there any mini you've always wanted to paint and haven't managed to get? Yeah, probably all the alternative sculpts for the Questing Knights. I have one, and I would like to have the other 3, but I'm not willing to pay the prices of some that they are on eBay, so I will just wait for the moment. If they don't come, I don't really care. Thank you, Josu. Well, James asks, what varnish do you use? Well, I'm using almost exclusively. If it's a display piece, I use AK Interactive Ultra Matte. I don't know where AK will be here in a few months, but that's the varnish I use. And for gaming pieces, I use Munitorium varnish from Games Workshop. I just like it very much. It provides a very good balance between matte and satin, and not dulling down metallics very much. And I sprayed 2 full armies with it, and it hasn't frosted any single model, so I'm very happy. Are there any thoughts you wanted to voice regarding Naki interactive book promotion? Yes, it was a train wreck. That I the book was going to be controversial, 100%. It was always going to be controversial, but controversial topics are not bad in themselves. The problem is the promotion was tasteless and it was a total shit show. Like, I mean, everything since the moment they posted the first video, and I contacted one of the AK guys, which I know personally, and he's a very nice guy, and I said, what the hell are you doing, guys? This is not going to end well for you. And I didn't get an answer on that moment, but he later told me he wasn't happy with it either, but there's nothing he can do really. And since that first video, every single thing they did, every comment, every new video, every new thing they did was worse than the previous things. So it was just like a perfect train wreck coming and in slow motion, and it was horrible. The book itself, I don't like it personally. I think it's again tasteless, but the topic in itself is not bad, and if it's for a good cause, if it's going part of the profits to a good cause, maybe it's not bad, and there are people interested in those historical events. So, I mean, whatever, it's not my thing. Okay, next questions. Alberto asks, if I missed some questions, sorry. This is my first time doing, and it's really hard to read all the comments, guys. By the way, we are 130 now, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for being here. I really cannot comprehend how you guys would like to hear me talk and see my face, but Alberto asks how much time I've been painting and what was my first miniature. I've been painting since the 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, so that is 97 more or less, so I'm guessing, yeah, 23 years. And my first miniature was actually a Bretonnian archer. Like many people of my age, that was my first mini. Will you dabble in historical miniatures or singles at some point? Maybe. I don't discard anything. It's a topic that for now I want to stay with GW games if I can, because those make views, and I actually like the sculpts a lot. So from my Kings of War and Dead Zone minis, and I really like them, but I don't discard doing historical minis in the future. How do you get such a smooth and even contrast application without blotches or time marks? Well, use a big brush for one. This is my usual go-to brush. This is a size 4 Rosemary & Co. So the thing is, you want to cover each panel with as less brush strokes as possible. Also, don't use your brush bone dry on any paints. You want your brush to be wet. So clean your brush with water, with clean water. Dab that brush on a piece of paper towel or with your mouth, which is what I do. And with the brush moist or wet, just start applying your contrast paints. Again, as less brush strokes as possible, and use quite a lot of paint. And you can always take it out while it's drying, but you cannot really add more once you apply the first layer. So that's basically the trick. It's just practically brush control and speed. Have you ever thought, Martin asks, have you ever thought of painting Gunpla? I bet you would kill it. Some of the kids are really cool, but I cannot really make any better job than the Japanese guys. They are insane. I've seen some crazy stuff, and If I ever get to paint one, you may see it, but for the time being, I will leave that to the experts. Will you make Mozilla Firekeep asks, will you do more bits on Asterion models? Probably not, because all my Asterion models are painted in the same way that you saw in the Farsight Enclaves video, in the Spectra video, and I see no point in painting the same thing, doing the same techniques over and over again, so for the time being I won't be painting any more Asterions. David asks, your style is super clean, do you ever experiment with a dirty, grimy aesthetic? It's not my thing. I've done it with the base of the Spectra. It's quite rusted, the metal is rusted. I know how to do it, but it's not my thing. But if you like dirty and grimy vehicles especially, have a look at Uncle Nightshift on YouTube. He is insane. The weathering he does is just absolutely insane. So if you like it, go and have a look. Uncle Nightshift, he's amazing. Have you ever thought on doing a specific freehand tutorial like when you show to make the alpha? Yes, and I mean, freehand tutorials is the problem with doing a freehand tutorial is that it's very dependent on what you're doing. So the way I would do a Bretonnian shield is 100% different than the way I would do the scales on the Alpha Legion. So in the end, it's basically the same. Have thin paint. You can use a bit of Flow Improver. I don't own any, but you can if that helps you. Thin layers, and don't. But the most important when doing freehand is don't forget mistakes happen. We all make mistakes. The difference between a new painter and a pro painter is a new painter usually makes a mistake and it's very frustrated and he just thinks everything is horrible, the life is going to end soon, and that miniature is ruined. It isn't. When a pro painter makes a mistake, he just sees, takes new paint, corrects the mistakes, and keeps painting. But we all make mistakes. So, and when doing freehand, correcting mistakes is just part of the process because you are not a printer, you're not a machine. So you need to make corrections, to adjust and just keep adjusting. It's a game of adjusting, basically. Are there any other videos planned? Yes, I actually made a poll on my Patreon about what I wanted to see next, and a Iyanden tutorial is coming at some point. When, I don't know, because that's how this channel works apparently. Legiel Tamas, sorry if I'm butchering your name. Are there any painting techniques which was more difficult for you than anything else at the start? Not at the start, it's still being difficult for me. That is wet blending. I don't wet blend. It just doesn't click with me. I've tried it a lot of times. I've tried it on canvas. I tried it on a lot of mediums, and I was never able to make it. So I don't wet blend. Why don't you like blue? Manus asks. That's been answered before. I just don't like it. Some more questions. I was hoping, the Dreamer, I was hoping you to be wearing that tiara. May I ask for the story? That tiara is not mine. I don't have it anymore. Some of you already know this. I'm a goldsmith by trade, so I make custom jewelry for my clients. That tiara was made for a bride that was going to about, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And I just made that tiara for her, and I wanted to show her how it fitted and how it was on the head. So I put it on, take a picture, send it to her. I thought the picture was funny, so I kept it, and that's the story basically. That's me in my job, halfway doing a project. That if you look closely to that tiara, it's not even polished, it's not finished, it's just all the soldering was finished, and that was it. Why did you change Shovel Knight from gold NMM to blue NMM? Well, because Shovel Knight is blue. If you play the game, the Shovel Knight armor is blue, so that was always going to be the color. But that leg was a very good. Stormcast and Space Marines are fantastic to practice NMM. So I just had that leg around. I just had that model around. I took it and I just painted. And when it got time to paint over for the blue, I just thought it would be funny to make a video about it. Metallica fan, saludos desde México, saludos amigo. Bienvenido. I've answered this question. Rexo asks why don't I make any videos in Spanish? Well, I'm Spanish. That's pretty obvious. I don't make any videos in Spanish because most of my audience, most of you here probably don't speak Spanish. So when 80 or 90% of your audience doesn't speak Spanish, then making a video in Spanish for the channel seems a bit pointless. And sadly, I don't have the medium to make a video in both languages. It really takes a lot of time to edit videos. I do it all myself. So making them in both languages is not an option. I'm not Angel. Angel is amazing. He has a team with him. He has a guy that dubs his videos. He has an editor that edits his videos. I do it all by myself, and making what I do now is more than enough. Crimson Painter, do you have any other interests besides painting? Have you and your family been safe during the pandemic? I've not really any interest. I'm just like painting and sculpting. I play war games. I also play video games. I like video games a lot. And yes, my family and I have been very luckily we are all good and safe, and we have all been good. My kid has just started going to school back yesterday, so we're fingers crossed everything goes well. Gianni says Satkasgagu, I never know how to pronounce that name. He does insane grim dark stuff. Yes, he does. He's really good. Arian Perez, your favorite paint range and why is Citadel? Because it's massive and I like the colors, I like the system, I really like the vibrancy, and I like how they blend and how they apply. And some of the base paints, not all of them, but some of the base paints are probably the best base coated paints ever made. Any chance for a solid gold Seraphon? No, sorry. I once casted a medal in silver and it wasn't fun. Yes, and like some sleep would be nice. That would be fine, but this is my face since I was born, and it's not going to away. It's not going away, no matter how much sleep do I take. Sorry, this is just how I look. And none offense taken. Hi, if you varnish, what do you like to use? I don't own an airbrush, but this has already been asked. If it's display and it's not over metallics, aka Interactive Ultramatte, and if it's for gaming, monitoring varnish. When are you going to do a video on OSL? Not sure. I'm still practicing. Tom Brand, how would you shade black using contrast paints? Not shading black, you cannot shade black. Black is black. If you mean like painting something black, my usual go-to is Mechanicus with black temper over the top and then highlight from that. Tom Brand, also without an airbrush, how would you gloss varnish? I don't gloss varnish ever. I don't like it. If I want to paint something gloss, I paint the reflections by hand. Because I I see gloss varnish kind of as a gimmick. So if I want to paint something reflective, I just paint the reflections. What do I recommend? I don't have any gloss varnish, but if the quality of the ultramatte varnish is anything to go by, AK varnishes are amazing. James Richards, would you do a video showcasing your miniature armies? Maybe at some point. Not now. I need to figure out how I want to do it. Steve O, love your work. Would you ever consider doing a more grimdark space? I don't do grimdark. That's not my thing. I don't know how to do it well, and there are other people that do a better job than me. So grimdark is not what I do. I like very vibrant, very shiny things. Do you ever mix, David asks, do you ever mix contrast medium with other things other than contrast paints, etc.? I've tried it with paints, with regular layer paints and so on, and I don't like it. I prefer lamy medium if I want to make a wash. And for with washes, I've tried it, but I don't see much difference between that and using just a thin down contrast paint. So yes, I've seen people that use it very effectively. So if you like it, go for it. Leo asks, do you plan on making a full sculpting tutorial? Yes, that tutorial is coming. I made a bit of a cold feed with sculpting videos. I like make them, but they perform really bad. Like, it's crazy how bad they do. I still want to make them because I think they are very useful for people, but I need to put them into a place where they don't affect my views very much. So it will come, but I don't know when. Do you find any contrast paints work particularly well? Yes, I do. Actually, I have a lot of videos about that, and the best ones for me are Iyanden Yellow, probably Skeleton Horde. Those are very difficult to mess up. Skeleton Hordes and Iyanden Yellow are very, very difficult to mess up. Those are fantastic. Metallic Fanas, what's your favorite mini painter? And that is Darren Latham. If you see my videos and how I paint, it's basically a copy of Darren Latham. If I have to choose another one, that would be Gareth Nicholas. So yeah, so heavy metal style, 100%. And also as pure artist, because I think what he does is insane. Ben Comets, it's like insane. It's just, for me, he doesn't paint miniatures, he just does art. So it's a different topic. Guillermo asks, have you ever think to check and paint nostalgic minutes like Rogue Trader and Warhammer Fantasy? Actually, the Iyanden tutorial will be with an old metal Wraith robot or whatever it's called. I've just forgotten. It's been a very long time since I played 40k. And yeah, if I find a mini I like it, I'll probably use it for my videos, but for the time being, I haven't found any one yet. I like your yellow and red so much. Have you ever thought of painting an Angry Marine? It's basically the same as an Imperial Fist, but as a joke, it would be a fun project to do, yes, but not for the time being. Locke asks what will be the next Age of Sycamore mini I am going to paint, and is, as per the votes in my Patreon feed, is going to be Carodron Overlord's Arcanaut. That is coming as soon as I can make it, basically. Pesa de Flesa asks, how do you learn where to place the light and shadow for painting NMM? And if you watch the Shovel Knight video, I explain where I do it, and if you watch the How to Paint Gold NMM, I explain where I got all my inspiration from, which is Darren Layden blog. He explains where to place the highlights there, so go and check that video. There's a link in the description there when you can check Darren's blog, and then you will get the answer for that question. With Tom Brown, which airbrush and compressor would you recommend? I don't have an airbrush, so I'm not the person to recommend airbrushes. Next question, Queries asks, do you have a recipe for painting vials, hourglass, syringes? There is not really a recipe, but I have a method of doing it, which is basically a copy of the heavy metal way of doing them. And I plan on doing a video, but I don't mind explaining them. First of all, you need to take that vial and see and make a line that is parallel to the ground, to the base, along all that vial, and then you basically want to paint from the liquid starting from darker on the bottom and lighter on the top, if I remember correctly. And the same for the glass part, starting from dark and going to light, and then do a couple of white reflections. But I probably make a video about that if I find the correct meaning to do so. Alasdair Richardson, what are you like as a gamer? Do you enjoy the competitive or narrative side more? Love your work. Thank you very much. Well, it depends on what game I'm playing. I enjoy tournaments a lot. I won't lie to anyone here. I've been to London a couple of times to go to Dead Zone and Kings of War tournaments. Those are the only games I play, by the way. And in Kings of War is a game that when you're playing a tournament, it's just, you cannot not play it seriously. It's a very serious game. The people that play Kings of War are amazingly friendly. You have a lot of laughs, but the game itself is very competitive and very serious. It's very intense, and Dead Zone is a very relaxed game. When you're playing Dead Zone, you're just having fun. It's a game where you just laugh when you play. It's that kind of game, and you have a really good time. So it depends on what game I'm playing, but I like tournaments, and I also like. I like narrative games, but I don't like campaigns for a reason. Narrative campaigns are just something that just doesn't click with me. Do you have a favorite, Steve-O, do you have a favorite model or color scheme? Yes, I do. Favorite color scheme would be my skinks from my Lizardmen or Seraphon army. And a favorite model, yes, that is the Green Knight. Ed asks, like Miniac did with the Duchess, would you ever consider sculpting a model to sell on your channel? I have already sculpted a couple of models that I sold on Etsy. I enjoyed the part of sculpting them. I enjoyed all the making the product, getting the cast and everything, but the selling part I did not. It was a lot of work going to send the model, package it, send it. It was too much work, and I ended up not really liking that at all, so I stopped selling them. And I actually ran a raffle of the rest of my Bretonnian models on my Patreon, and then just after that finished, the pandemic struck, and I couldn't send the models, and they will be sent at some point. And then I will have no more models apart than the ones I keep for me. So, not really. Zachary asks, would you do a sculpting video for Arma Legion scales? I already did. Check it out. It's how to sculpt scales. Dragon scales, I think it's called. How do you choose between Gryph-Charger Grey and Spells Wolf's Grey? I think you mean for the recess shades. I tried the Space Wolf's Grey a couple of times. I prefer Gryph-Charger Grey. Gryph-Charger Grey is one of my favorite contrast paints. Silver Arrow, what's your favorite painting technique? Glazing. By far, I paint everything, almost everything, doing glazes. Enjoyed any Games Workshop video lately? Oh, video games lately, recently. Not. I have a new computer. This new rig that I have here at home. It's could play modern games for sure, but I don't know. The last Games Workshop game that I played, and it wasn't long ago. I played this game a couple of times a year. That was I think it's called Final Liberation. I played that game a couple of months ago, and I plan on playing it before the year ends because I really love that game. It's one of my favorite games ever made. So, as you can see, I'm not really up to date with the modern games. Hello, Talia. Welcome. Can I say... Yes, Kenneth, you are reading too much in the title. I just don't like painting blue. It's as simple as that. It's an in-joke of the... it started like because I don't really like painting blue. I made a joke in a blue painting tutorial, and it just became an in-joke of the channel. Gavin is Gavin Kings of War, and what other game did he say? I played Dead Zone by Mantic Games also. All the games that I play are from Mantic Games. I really like. They make the best rules ever made. I also really love your videos. Pixel Mass says, for a painter newbie like me, would you consider doing Warhammer 40k armies? They are coming. All the Xenos races are coming. I plan to do a video, at least a video of every race or every faction. So they are coming. When, I don't know, but they are coming for sure. So what? Also, what is my favorite 40k army? That's Eldar. That's my favorite. Iyanden, by the way. There is no other option. Ariel Sasinski, did you ever get into War Machine Orts? I tried a very long time ago when the game came out. I bought some Khador minis that I actually have here. As you can see, little guy, Khador thing. I have a Warjack too, but I never liked the game. For some reason, when that game was new, no one was really playing it. And then I stopped. I have the obligatory gap in my hobby, and when I came back, it just didn't interest me. And the pricing policy of Privateer Press, I find, is bonkers. 8-pointer star painting us. Do you play The Walking Dead? No, I don't. I don't like The Walking Dead franchise. Would you do an online judging contest of model painting for your followers? That would be a fucking good idea. Sorry for my words, but that would be a really good idea, and I like it very much. So, I need to think about it, but that's going to happen. The problem is knowing where to submit, so probably in my page. So stay tuned because that is coming. I will have to think about it. But thanks, Tom. That's a great idea. Okay. What do you think of the Call to Arms? Are you fan of Skyrim? Of that? No, I haven't played any of those games. I play all the games basically. I have a Nintendo 3DS, and I use mostly to play Zelda's and Mario games. And I have Wii U, probably one of the 10 people that has one, and I really like it. And again, I just play Zelda and Mario games because those are the games that I really like, and old games like old style platform action games like Shovel Knight. Those are the kind of games that I like. So I haven't played Skyrim. I probably will do at some point. I think it's a very good game. The problem is I don't see myself investing so much time playing a video game. Seems like a bit of too much for me. I have too many things to paint. Favorite Blood Bowl team from MS from NC. Yeah, probably halflings or snotlings or goblins. I like funny blood. I don't like Blood Bowl, but if I had to pick a team to play, it will be one of the joke funny teams like goblins, snotlings or halflings. FD, do you put metallic paints for your wet palette? I didn't do that for a long time, and I started doing that, and I don't regret it. Basically, I started painting metallic paints, and it's helped me for getting a smoother base coat. I know that a lot of people say that the pigments contaminate the water and then flow into their paints. I haven't seen that. I have 2 wet palettes, so I just did it on one to see if there was any cross contamination or could I see any flakes, and I couldn't. So I don't think that is true if you really try it. I haven't used any of the Vallejo metal color, so those are really liquid and really thin, so those may contaminate, but the Citadel paints and the Scale 75 paints, those don't. Steve-O, would you ever consider a TMM tutorial? I made one for a sword, and yes, I will probably do more. And I think I've also done one for gold. For gold armor, and if you watch the how to heavy contrast Stormcast Eternal video, that is basically gold TMM. So yes, I've already done that, and I will probably do a steel one at some point. Crazy Horse, will you do more AOS painting videos? Maybe Lumineth, New Chaos Warriors? Yes, I have. I plan to do at least one of each faction. So yes, more are coming. Next one is, as I said before, Arcanaut Company from the Steampunk Dwarfs, whatever the name. Caradron Overlords. Thank you, Simon. Thank you for watching. PGS, do you still have the first mini you ever painted? No, I don't. Sadly, I don't have the first mini I've ever painted. No, I don't have. I have some of the first archers that I painted for the army, but those are not nearly as bad as the first mini I've ever painted. Back then we didn't have tutorials, we didn't have anything really, so we just had to do it all by ourselves and learn from listening to others and then practicing at home and maybe reading an article on a White Dwarf, but those were really bad. If you remember the old White Dwarf how to paint articles are like the old meme where it's just do a couple of circles and then just paint the oval. It was almost something like that. Heather, thanks for teaching me to paint with one hand. Thank you, Heather. You are amazing. For those of you that don't know, Heather is one of my favorite persons ever, and a really amazing inspiration for me. She was painting models for a while, then had an accident and lost her dominant hand. She is the real Iron Hand, and he started painting with her not dominant hand, which is the right one. He is a lefty. I started painting with her right hand thanks to my videos, and I'm really inspired by that. So thank you, Heather. Samuel asks, how do you avoid pulling when using contrast? I follow your tips, such as loading up paint on big flat panels. Sometimes I just get pulling there or there is. Sometimes it happens, but what you need to do, pulling will happen, Ponchos paints are just like that. You need to absorb the excess. You need to locate those pullings that you don't want and absorb them with a clean brush. And sometimes they will just happen and you just have to paint over them, and it's a pain. Javier asks, sorry, Javier asked, do you have plans to doing a big miniature like a giant or a big knight from Iyanden or anything like that that's big? I already done one big, which is the Spectre for Dead Zone, and I don't plan on doing anything big. I don't like painting big models, not even for my armies, and surely not for the channel. It's a pain in the ass. Your Crimson Painter, do you read the Horus Heresy books at all, or not your thing? That has been in my to-do list for a while. The problem is, I really like the story, and I think it's very interesting, but I think they could have made it shorter with less books, and I think that would have been better. I think that is like the never-ending story, and I really think that it's one of those things that will never end, just like the Star Wars films. Just wanted to say, quickly, thank you very much, Elia B. We'd love to see you do some Underworlds Warbands, but you are lucky, Billy, because all my AOS planned videos are all miniatures from the Underworld Warbands because they are very cheap, and they provide a very cool one-pose minis that are really cool to paint, and that you can use for AOS too. So the Arcanite Company and the Sylvaneth that is coming, all of those come, and the goblins that will come to, or the grots, how they are called now, all will be from the Underworld's Warbands. So stay tuned. Yeah, Adam says paint doesn't, talking about the metallic paint on the wet palette, paint doesn't penetrate the baking paper, which is true, and if it paint doesn't, metallic pigments won't. Problem appears when you dab your brush on the sponge paper towel on the sides to make it wet. I don't do that, so maybe that's a reason why I don't have any problems. So if you are working with metallic paints on your wet palette, don't dab your brush on the sponge. Good call there, Adam. Mystery, are those awards behind you? Is a competition painting something that you are interested in? Yes, they are. These are from the heavier metal headbanger competition from last year, from the amazing people at the heavier metal Facebook group on Facebook, of course, and yes. And yes, it's a funny story about the interest in painting competitions, because when I came back to painting about 5-6 years ago, painting competition, I just promised to myself that I won't do any painting competitions. That's something that I used to do before, and I just wanted to paint some armies to a level that I was happy with, and just move on and not bothering with that, because it's something that really absorbs you, and it's a rabbit hole that it's very dangerous to go down. But here we are, and I'm painting for competition, so yeah. What are you gonna do? Sorry, I was focusing on my face. Daniel Fit, besides Rosemary, I currently think I've seen you use Raphael's. Maybe other brands. How do you find them different? I like them all. I have a lot of brushes from a ton of brands, and my favorites are by far Raphael and Rosemary & Co, and not in that order actually. I actually now prefer my Rosemary & Co's Series 33, size 3 and 4. Those are my favorite brushes ever, and I use them all the time. In the last videos, all you've seen is the Rosemary & Co's. But Raphael's are fantastic brushes. The thing is, I don't think you can beat the Rosemary & Co brushes overall, because the price is just insane. Hey Juan, I love your videos. Daniel asks, how does one obtain good feedback? Posting online seems to result in looks good rather than pointing out things you can improve. Yes, that happens a lot. The problem is people online want to be polite. So, and when you ask for honest feedback, some people are asking for honest feedback when they aren't, and then they people give honest feedback and they get burned in return. So people just stop giving feedback altogether and just say it looks good, or I like it, or whatever. So it's really hard. You want to give feedback. I do have one advice for you. Join the Painter Motivating Painters Facebook group, the PMP. It's amazing. Once a month you can post a picture of one of your minis, and Vince Venturella will review it for you on a live video. It's amazing. It's really useful. You can ask for feedback on some areas, and he will do, and he's amazing, as we all know. So do that during the PMP and ask for feedback there. You will really like it. Okay, Sadrot FM. Nice to finally see you live. I've been thinking of doing a small 40k thin diorama lately, and watched your old video on pigments. Was wondering if you consider doing a bit on dioramas. I don't like doing dioramas. Dioramas are something that, I don't know, just uninterested in. Don't know why. It's just maybe too big. I'm doing one for a painting competition, probably Golden Demon, but I don't know when that will be, and I don't know if it will be finished, but it won't be big either. And I probably don't do any videos because that's very time consuming painting. Do you still buy pigments on all your bases these days, or it was just a one-time thing? And I have the pigments, and I probably use them if I find the correct army. The problem is my painting doesn't mix really well with pigments. It's not like very clean looks. But if I do, yes, Bayek pigments are probably the way to go for me, because they are easily available for me. So, and they are good quality, so why not? You can also do pick up some artist pastels and just grind them down, and you will probably get something really good out of that. So I'm probably more colors than the Vallejo line. Next question: do you do a lot of extensive kit bashing and sculpting? I love the previously mentioned idea of you giving us feedback. By the way, would definitely participate. Okay. I really like standard models that come out of the box. I really like to work on something that a sculptor did that I really respect, and that's really attractive to me. I'm starting to doing more conversions lately, and yes, I've done custom sculpting, of course, and I will probably do more, but I like standard stuff. 1 second, guys, I need to do one thing. It will be 30 seconds at most. We'll be back. Okay, we are back now. Sorry, I had to really blow my nose there, and I don't think you would want to see that. Okay. Ben asked why I hate blue. Can I have someone answer him, please? I already answered that. Inspired by Darren Leather, he doesn't sanitize highlight his models from what I've seen. Is this why you don't? Do you ever feel it's necessary for that style? He does a bit. but he does mostly heavy metal style. And the thing with the heavy metal style, it defines the minis really well. It looks really good on the box, and you can, looking at the box, you can see how the minis look in real life in plastic. It's a fantastic way of showcasing a product. But he does. If you look closely at his minis, you can clearly see there is a Zenithal highlights going on, but it's of course mostly heavy metal style. So you can combine both, and I've done that. So yeah. Okay, the Pickle Jar asks, how long have you been in the hobby for, and why did you decide to start a YouTube channel? I already answered the how long I've been, since the 5th edition box of Warhammer Fantasy, so 23 years more or less. And why did I start the channel? Because a lot of friends ask me how I did things, and we never really can join together to paint. So I thought, why not record myself painting a couple of things to show them that it's not really that hard. You can do a couple of techniques that really help a lot. And I recorded the first 3 videos. There's the painting green, painting red, and painting blue. You can still watch those videos if you want. There's no voiceover, and it's just me in a very weird angle, on a camera angle, because I had nothing to hold my camera. It was my camera just on a tripod on top of a chair. So yeah. The Crimson Painter, anything you are looking forward to the hobby scene? Yes, the Seraphon Underworlds Warband is the next thing I really want to see. As a Listerman player, that's something that I'm really excited about. Yeah, I see Heather answer that. Curson asks, do you play Infinity by Corpus Belli? If so, will you ever try doing a painting video on the minis? No, I don't. And it's a game that doesn't really interest me. And as for painting video minis of theirs on my channel, probably it may happen at some point if I feel like it. I like some of the sculpts, I won't lie, they are really cool. But there is a reason why Angel doesn't paint Infinity stuff on his channel, even though he is the official painter for Corpus Belli. And that is because Corpus Belli is not really willing to sponsor videos for painting. That is true, actually. I was talking to him about that not very long ago. So, and not GW paint videos don't really perform well. That is problematic because this takes a lot of time to make a video, and it takes a really long time to edit and prepare this, probably a lot of hours. And if a video just doesn't perform well, it makes you feel really bad. So it's better to, if they were sponsored, then you have a motivation to do them. And I think it would be a really good move on part of Corpus Belli, but they are not willing to do so at the moment. Okay, next question. Mark Atkinson, yes, that is fake news. What do you do? Oh, that's a very good question. John 500X, what do you do when the tip of your dropper bottle breaks? They will break, and I don't do anything. I just keep painting with them. It's painful and it's horrible, and if I were to transfer all my dropper paints again, I would probably invest on some better quality dropper bottles, probably from Vallejo they sell, and I know Proacryl sells empty bottles, and I know Watercolors also do sell empty bottles, and I probably invest on some better ones. In fact, I've run out of my cheap Chinese bottles, so I will probably, the next ones will probably be on those better quality ones. Okay, Strike Main, are you able to do a more detailed video on doing Flash with contrast? I will probably do that at some point. I have plans to buy the Underworlds, no, the Warcry warband with the barbarian looking dudes, so I will probably use those as a basis for a contrast Flash tutorial. Have you got any tips for using contrast paints on tanks, or it does just not work? Yes, I do. Buy an airbrush. That sounds harsh, but it's the truth. You can. I'm sure I would be able to do a tank with contrast paints and have it not look bad. Probably using a makeup sponge instead of a brush could be a good idea, but it's very wasteful in terms of paint, and I really don't think it's worth it. So a simple airbrushing layer will look really good, will make everything look on par with your army, and that is what I would do. Okay, no, I haven't answered that. Well, I have actually, yes. NS2. What brushes do I mainly use? Rosemary & Co. Series 33, size 3 and size 4. Those are my go-to brushes. I have a size 2 also that I use for the finest, tiniest details. But 3 and 4 is my go-to brushes. Thank you, Billy. That's very nice. Don't be first last. It's just a joke, and also not everybody's perfect, so what can you do? I've Juan Jesus asked why I have my tiara. I already answered that, so go back a little bit. It wasn't mine. So when I left my tiara, it's in the hands of her owner. Seems like we have been here for an hour and 7 minutes. Oh, I was asking if there's going to be any more questions. So, yes, Peter van den Vogt, or whatever that is pronounced, sorry. Maybe stay with Underworlds and try Garek's Rivers on the automated skin. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I know, not Underworlds, I'm going to do with the Warcry, sorry. No, I like the Warcry guys. They are really cool, and I think they have a lot of flesh showing. But yes, the Garek Rivers are the other option, so that is there too. So, guys, seems like we, as I said, we've been here for an hour and 10 minutes. I think that is good enough for now. So you have any more questions, pop them right now, because this is going to end soon, sadly. I actually had a really good time, and I really hope you also had a good time. Also, we need some more 9th Age Old War High Elves. Well, the problem with the High Elves, I'm painting an army of High Elves, but it's a very personal scheme, and I paint my armies when I don't, when I can't record videos. So that is a problem for recording videos. Also, I prefer to keep to the actual ranges for the videos if I can, or something that will have an equivalent in the newer ranges, because those videos are usually performing better for me, and I really like the new sculpts a lot. So anyway, everything you see in my High Elves, if you have seen them, are all basically the contrast videos. So I may do a video on how to paint units, or how to be efficient with contrast paints and basic base coats and so on. That is a good idea. I may do that at some point. Okay, someone asked if I will paint an Skitarii. I will paint an Skitarii, so that is coming at some point. Stay tuned. Said I'm going to paint one for each faction. Any plans for Grey Knight? I already did a video on how to paint Grey Knight armor, and I will probably paint a full Grey Knight at some point. I'm waiting to see if they make new sculpts for them. I don't know if that is going to happen, but I do plan on painting Grey Knights, yes. So I think that is good enough for now, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and it's been a real pleasure and a real honor to have all you here. So if you have any more questions, just pop them in the comments below. Don't forget to check my Patreon and my YouTube members, also my merch. I was hoping I could have one of my t-shirts for the stream, but sadly it hasn't arrived, so it's just one generic t-shirt. But check the merch, check the Patreon, check the YouTube members if you don't like Patreon, and I'll see you here on the next video. So, hi guys, bye!